right, we are in downtown Salida. It's a continuation of this anatomy of a mountain town where we are meeting the folks that make Salida move, that have changed Salida. I don't know if they've changed it because it's always been this way, but they've just enriched it. And I've had the opportunity to meet and know and be friends with a lot of these people. And this place that I'm in right now is very, very special to me. And this person is very special to me. Very good friend. One of the first people I thought about when I started this podcast. Oh. And even last year, I had my podcast equipment. We couldn't make it happen. But I'm glad I'm 14 interviews in. Talk to the great Barry Corbin. Get me ready for this celebrity. The one, the only Steph Perko. How you doing, Steph?
I'm great. Thank you for that introduction. That's huge. That's so generous and so thoughtful. Thank you. No lie, I love it, but we're easing into it.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That'd be awesome.
Well, I love it. And I think that's a doable thing. Enough people that I know and are connected to. And the dirt bike. You and I are connected by the dirt bike.
Absolutely.
Isn't dirt bike a better word than motorcycle?
Oh, I like to call them motorbikes.
You do that.
I do that.
That's very European. Europeans call them motos.
Yeah.
But motorcycles, too many syllables.
It's too many syllables, and you get a big head when people say, oh, I ride a motorcycle. I'm like, no, I ride a motorbike.
Or a dirt bike.
Dirt bike.
You know what's a better word that I wish you could say instead of motorcycle, but it's a completely different machine?
What?
Speedboat.
Speedboat.
Isn't speedboat a great word?
Speedboat is a great word.
Because it's like a motorcycle has some utility. You know, they use it in war. Military's used them. I guess they use speedboats. But a speedboat on its own, that guy that's on the lake in a jet boat.
Just going fast, having fun.
Suck my wake.
Yeah, what are we going to do in this pontoon boat? Take Omaha Beach? I know. They're great, though.
Yeah.
What's some of our favorite things?
Yeah. Move closer to that mic, Steph.
Oh, I'm closer.
Yeah,
I'm real close. I'm leaning away from it.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. That's how you know you're a professional podcaster, when you tell your guests, just go ahead and lean up closer to the mic.
And then I'm the one leaning away from the mic constantly.
But I move it around.
How's this better?
Yeah, that's
okay,
how
now I can see over it. This feels
how Joe
better.
does it. He's always pulling it towards him. And
feel offended by it. Is that what you said? Okay. There we are. Is that better?
Yeah, it's got to be in your space.
Okay, it's definitely in my space.
It's a lady, a natural grocer that won't get out of the way of the coconut water.
We all know a few of those.
Yeah, I was like, come on. I love it that we got straight into the motorcycle and dirt bike and motorbike. I'm going to start saying that.
Start saying it. It's great.
Yeah.
My dad says that all the time, so I think that's where it's rubbed off on me.
Because Allison said, she goes, I don't think you say motorcycle weird on the podcast, but when I say it without thinking, motorcycle, like Elvis might say it, like it's a popsicle and a motorcycle.
Oh, now I always think about the popsicle motorcycle. Yeah, weird.
I think in the Motley Crue song, Girls, 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 my motorcycle and a switchblade knife. They say motorcycle. And it's always a good show when you get to reference Motley Crue, Girls, Girls, Girls.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. I don't think I ever played that here in the shop when I worked here.
You never did? You played a lot of Van Halen, but yeah, I don't know about the Motley Crue.
And Motley Crue was more my jam. Actually, and I didn't really work in this shop. We're filming this. We've got a GoPro and a Canon, but the Canons only go 30 minutes, and its shot looks fantastic. The GoPro, we're going to see how that works.
Fingers crossed, always.
Fingers crossed. GoPros shoot really vivid pictures, but
but they're finicky. My dad has one, and I've taken on several motorbike trips. Yeah. And I always mess with it for a little bit. Then I'm like, whatever. We'll just remember this. It's fine.
That is how I operate. That's why I'm a writer. And I deal with all these photographers, and it's fantastic because they take pictures of me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to take pictures of, you saw me set all this junk up. Of course, the podcast equipment, no big deal. But I fumbled with these two cameras.
Oh, they're finicky. We're on the bleeding edge of technology. It's kind of like a printer. We put a man on the moon, but we can't get something to print.
Isn't that frustrating? Bluetooth. Bluetooth. Oh my gosh.
A PowerPoint. Come on.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah, it's like just sync the speaker with Bluetooth, and you can listen to Motley Crue, Van Halen, Lyle Lovett.
Shouldn't be that hard, but it is.
What's the most popular song that's played in the radio? What's the current tunes that you hear?
Ooh, in the Oveja radio?
Yep.
It's something different all the time because we listen to so much music. There's literally music playing here constantly. We just had the specials and the Violent Femmes playing, but that's my happy hour. But in the shop, you'll hear Fish, you'll hear Taylor Swift, you'll hear everything.
Yeah, David Bowie was playing when I came in.
David Bowie, Alan Jackson, we get it all.
And so I didn't work. This is the downtown store. I know you may think, actually, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to let you know a secret. This is an exact replica of my garage at home.
I hope so. I hope so. I wouldn't be disappointed if it wasn't.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got that many Porteros, and I've got that many. You can't see them over there. There's frame bags, but this shop didn't exist when I worked here.
No.
Now this is a new concept, and I don't know of any other bikepacking companies that have a full scale retail store that's open.
Yeah, and we're so grateful for this spot. It kind of we always kind of talked, it'd be cool, but, and then this spot became available, and the wonderful Lane Wilson worked her magic and landed us this spot. There were something like 30 people ahead of us, and she made it happen. And it's just been so wonderful. Every day we have somebody so cool come in here, and people just off the street, they walk in, they're like, what's this place all about? And they see the sewing machines going in the back, and it's absolutely amazing. And we're always amazed. We'll have these huge, busy days. We see hundreds of people. And at the end of the day, we say, do you run into any stinkers? I say, no stinkers on my dime. Any stinkers on your watch? No. Everybody that comes in here is happy. Nobody gives us any grief. Nobody comes in with a bad mood. They come in and they're just having a great time.
No shade thrown here at the Oveja, at the Black Sheep.
No, and we're so lucky because I know that is not the case.
I love to come here and hang out and bother everybody because I don't work here anymore. And I like to when I worked at the factory, the shop, people would come in that used to work at Oveja Negra, and they're like, "Oh, I used to work here." I'm like, "Well, I work here now, so you're not so special." And now I'm that guy that comes in, and I'm like, "I used to work here."
Oh man, but we love it, and everybody. That is the thing that we said when we opened this spot. It's like everybody is welcome. Everybody that walks through this door, make them feel welcome. They are our people. It doesn't matter who it is. They are our friend, and they are our people. That
had been our creed forever. Mm-hmm. And when I come in, I like to just kind of meander about and watch people come in that aren't bikepackers.
Yeah.
And watch them try to figure out what the store is.
Yeah, totally. And like even this morning, first thing this morning, it was pure magic. We had this sweet lady that was waiting for us. As soon as we got in, opened the door. She has an e-bike. She's from Oklahoma City, wanted a bag. So we're helping her out. We're getting her going. Then this tour divide rider walks in and we're like, you're going to have to wait. We're helping this lady. So we get her set up. Then we help him. And it's just, it was so cool.
I think, especially bikepacking is such a communal, such a high stoke activity. And it's a very strong community around it. You can go in a bike shop and get a little bit of attitude.
Oh, yeah. I worked in bike shops for years, and that was always the deal that when I retired from being a bike mechanic, I said, I'm through with the bicycle industry. There's just such an attitude. I can't take it. And then I find myself back in the industry in Oveja Negra. It's like, this is different, though. It's like, we're friends with everybody. There's no attitude ever.
I remember someone came in Lane and I were working, and they were like, y'all are so nice. And I'm like, well, yeah, we're happy to be here.
Why not be nice?
But I think they're just used to, and you get that in some hardcore climbing stores, kayak stores. You get the guy that's just there to paddle or whatever. And I think majority of people that work here are here to make a career of this and live this. And y'all do a fantastic job of paying the sewers a good wage and taking care of the employees. That was one of Lane's. That was one of her things that she wanted to implement early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's done such a huge, amazingly wonderful job at it. It's like all the full-time employees have health insurance paid for completely. They all make a thrivable wage. They have a wellness credit. There's other benefits that, like the other night we had a craft night. everybody came, bring your family, bring your friends, and we had brisket and ribs and, just like fun things like that. Like we just try and take care of everybody because we really do value everybody so much.
This is the greatest company, and I preach the praises wherever I go, and fancy myself an ambassador, and I get to talk about it, and I get to have a whole slew of bags I can kit out 2 or 3 bikes with the gear I have, and everyone asks questions about it, and I've had the opportunity to work with Texas Tech and Adventure Media, and y'all have sold them bags at a good price and helped them, and that's my most exciting thing is when I'm on those trips, I get to spend time with some really fantastic students, but I get to spend time with a lot of Oveja Negra bags.
Which is amazing. And it's just so exciting. So many of those kids from that class have found their way in here. And they walk in, they're looking around. So what's up? What are you hear about? Where are you from? Like, oh, Texas Tech. I'm like, Brandon Weaver and Jared Foster. They're like, oh, do I ever? So it's just been so cool to have that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just a magical place. And the downtown store, it's just so cool. Like I said, I like to come in here and watch people kind of look at bags and figure it out, and then they ask you or whoever's working that day, and they figure it out. And it's just the light's good in here, the vibe's good. Is this place haunted like the old shop?
No, this place, nothing. Yeah, the other shop that we were in downtown was very haunted, but this one we haven't had anything.
Yeah.
But it's great. And Monty did such a good job. He designed all the fixtures, so everything's built in Lane and Monty's garage. And yeah, it's just beautiful. It's such a team effort to keep this place stocked and going. It's just wonderful.
So he built these panels behind you.
Yep, he built these panels, all the shelves, and this was kind of all the lighting he redid. So it really is cool. And it's just the way we have it structured. It's like anybody that works at Oveja Negra can work down here as much as they want to. So most people just pick a day or two. So it really breaks it up. It's like you're not sitting at a sewing machine every day. Take a day, come down here, work retail. You can sew here, help people, just break up your schedule a little bit.
Yeah, Monty's a genius. He's a craftsman. He has designed all the bags, as far as I know. Except
there's a couple that a few other people, but for the most part, yeah.
And so he just puts a great deal of thought into whatever he does, and whenever you talk to him and look at him, he's just he has a very, I don't want to say intense, but it's just a very even measured guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. He truly is. And it's like just the way his brain works, a true craftsman. Like just from the design to the bags, and then you see his carpentry work. You're like, wow. Yeah. This guy's very talented.
I don't think people realize that what the sewing culture in the mountains is. I mean, we used to have guys come in here that were smoke jumpers at the factory.
Oh yeah.
And they would come in and look at the bar tacks and, this is how we rig our chutes up. We had a guy come in one time that he worked at Black Diamond climbing gear, and so he looked at the bar tacks. The bar tacks, I guess, guys, that's kind of like the most. Oh
man, they love it because the bar tacking machine is the most heavy metal thing that you do in your life.
It is. It sounds like a machine gun.
It's so cool. But yeah, dudes really they're into bar tacks.
Yeah, and just the name bar tack.
Just the name.
Yeah, because. Sewer, you can think of your grandmother. And if you write sewer, it looks like sewer.
Yes, it's very confusing. Hard to put a want ad in the newspaper, let me tell you.
And I always avoid the sewing machine because it looked like a lot of work to sit at those tables all day long. And I knew I would screw up something. And you don't ever want to disappoint Lane. And I did several times on packing stuff and making a mistake, shipping bags to the wrong place. And she would go, "It's just bike bags, Brandon."
Yeah. At the end of the day, you can't get worried about it. It's really whatever. Yeah, we're here. We're just doing it.
The bags get really upset when they're destined for one place and they show up at another place.
Yes, they don't like that. No. But, we just do what we can.
They're kind of like Muppets.
Yeah,
you cannot disappoint a Muppet.
No. You sure don't want to do that.
No, that should be a bumper sticker. I saw a bumper sticker. I had a guy come up behind me on the way here and like a Ram 1500 with no exhaust pipe on it, just and he blew past me and had Colorado plates, and he had that Colorado native bumper sticker.
Totally.
But it said tourist.
Oh, that's even better.
I was like, okay, I like it. It made me laugh, but he was in a hurry to get somewhere.
Oh man, and with a straight pipe, you gotta love it.
Yeah, he wasn't going very fast, but he made lots of racket. Well, let's talk about your origin story.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that you were bit by a radioactive spider. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. That's the next guy. I'm number 14.
That's Katrina Parker. I don't know what Spider-Woman's name is. I know what Spider-Man's name is. You were born in?
Pueblo, Colorado.
Pueblo, Colorado. When I was a kid, Pueblo, Colorado is where you sent off to get information from the government.
I've heard this, but I've never seen this commercial. People always talk about it's a building downtown, but what a cool place. I love Pueblo so much, and truly a charmed existence growing up a Perko in Pueblo, Colorado. And it's one of those things that you just don't know until you leave how good it was. Because it's like my whole life, like my dad would always bring us up to Salida to go camping. It's like I just loved it up here and kind of knew I wanted to live in the mountains my whole life. And then, I graduated high school. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Western State in Gunnison. This is what we're going to do. And I moved, and I'll never forget this, as one of the first barbecues I went to in Gunnison. I show up with a 12-pack of Tecates and some potato salad from Safeway, and I'm like, I'm here. And I was like, oh, mountain life is different than Pueblo life. Everyone looks at me like they're sitting there with their microbrews, and I'm like, oh, you guys don't drink Tecate here. And they had homemade side dishes. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's like Pueblo, like I'm one of the only people of my family that ever left. They all came from Croatia to work at the steel mill, and they're there. Like my family is born and raised. Like my parents, my brother and sister, they're all still there, and like no plans of leaving. They love it. And it's like, it really is truly a special place. And like everywhere I go, somebody knows my cousin or my dad, or, then I peel off and go to Gunnison, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, nobody cares what my last name is. Nobody knows anybody I know here. Like a very shocking thing. So it's like, man, moving to the mountains is like, oh, reality check. This place I always wanted to live. It's like, your home will always be your home. And this is different.
You know what? We felt that when we moved here, and I was 47 or 48, and it was the same thing. It was like, we were quite a bit older, but it just felt, to come to the mountains and to visit the mountains is different. When you become immersed in the mountains, it's a whole nother thing. And the credibility that you develop by being here for a number of years, and we were embraced by the community just right away. And I credit Lane and Allison was just such a fixture in the yoga community, and people were really drawn to her, where I was a little more subdued and quiet until I came to work here.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you almost have to earn your way.
Yeah.
In the mountain town. Yeah. Nobody's going to open the door. Hey, come on in. There's definitely people there welcoming and helpful. But it was just one of those things. It's like, oh, you don't have a cousin around every corner.
When there's a suspicion of like, you were in school, so that was but people, when we moved here, they're like, so how did you find Salida?
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah. And that's one thing that it's always kind of rubbed me wrong. It's like everybody tries to claim a place, and it's like, this is none of ours. None of this belongs to us. So that's where it's like, people always, like, every time I work downtown, someone's like, oh, you live here? Yep. How long you been here? Like, what does it matter? We're all here. Everyone's welcome.
Is that a new thing here? Because we didn't, there didn't seem to be that caste system. Like in Telluride, I've ridden enough lifts in Telluride and talked to locals that they said, if you've been here 10 years, you're like a noob. Mm-hmm. There's people that have been here 50 years, and you don't really get into certain groups until you've been here a long time. And Salida, we were welcomed really early on.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's hard to say. There's so many people that are moving here, but it's like, we've always said, it's like, we want to be here. Why wouldn't anyone else want to be here? It's awesome. Let's all just be here and be happy together and make the best of it.
Yeah, there's a sensibility of real life here.
Yeah.
Because it is a ranching and farming community early on.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a big recreation town. But you came, so you went to Western States in Gunnison.
Yep.
And went to school there.
Went to school there. And then I always wanted to live in Salida. Salida always had my heart. And so as soon as I graduated, I found myself here. Because it was in between Gunnison and Pueblo. Let's go get a little bit closer to home. It's still on Highway 50. I've always vowed, we always make this joke that I've never left Highway 50. And I probably won't, just for principle of the matter. So here I am, Salida, Colorado. Showed up here in 2008. And I was telling you the other day, like now Salida it's booming here. It's such a cool, vibrant place. But when I rolled up, half the businesses downtown were closed and I couldn't find a job, I was like, oh, I just moved here. What do I do? And I'm going up and down the street talking to everybody.
What year was this?
2008.
Okay.
And I went to the workforce center. I said, hey, I'm looking for a job. How do you get a job in this town? And the ladies in there laughed at me. They said, nobody's hiring here. Good luck. And so, So I wandered into the toy store. I started talking to the lady there, and she's like, yeah, I'll hire you. You can work here, but 2 days a month. I'm like, sure, I'll take it. Then I went to the Jug, the liquor store down the street, and Chad was like, yeah, you can work Sundays and Wednesdays. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll piece it together. Then I was working a little bit in Gunnison still, and just like, I was in Pueblo a little bit, just helping out down there. So it was like, okay, it kind of worked. And then from there, it was like, oh, Salida grew, and now it's like everywhere's hiring.
Well, when I met you, you had, I think, 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
And everyone here, that's just the case.
That's just the case.
Yeah. When I talked to Mike Harvey earlier this week for the podcast, and I was talking about Salida having just a really strong, most mountain towns have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. And he said, yeah, you have to, because you have to make your own job here.
Yeah.
You have to develop your own thing.
That is such a cool thing. When people often mention that, they're like, there's so many interesting businesses just walking up and down F Street. It's like, and that's really just amazing when you think about it. So many different manufacturing businesses and retail stores and the toy store and pottery shops and art galleries. It's like all those people just decided they wanted to do it, and they figured it out.
Yeah, how many coffee shops?
There's so many coffee shops,
4.
and they're all busy.
Yeah, and the Topo, is it Topo by Coffee by Topo?
Yeah, which is amazing. If you haven't had their oat milk chai, go have a Topo oat milk chai. It is to die for.
And she started out just like on her bicycle transporting coffee. Yeah, because I think it was last year or year before, I was in the shop and she brought in coffee, and Allison had met her at some point. But yeah, and now she has a brick and mortar store.
Yeah, and it's just so cool. And she's bringing in different artists, and they're doing some food, and she's got liquor license. So it's like just to watch this like bike delivery farmer's market, and now it's what it is. And it's just wonderful. And they're such a welcoming business too. It's like everybody that goes in there, it's always a smile, always, how are you doing? What do you need? So
yeah,
fantastic.
There's endless opportunities here. You just got to be ready to work.
Yeah, you just can't be afraid of it. And it's like, well, just get in there and figure it out.
Because when I was setting up the podcast, you were over there still fidgeting with stuff, pulling bags out of sewing machines.
Yeah, I had a bag halfway sewn, stuck in a sewing machine. I was like, oh.
What's the hardest bag to make?
Ooh, the hardest bag to make. I would say none of them are hard. There's some that are more complicated than others. Like some have a lot of steps. Yeah. Like Portero backpacks have a lot of steps. They take a bit to make, but they're not too hard. Just because that's the thing. It's like we set everything up where the designs go together so well, and then we have our pre-production team that cuts everything and gets everything lined out. So it's like, and the instructions are really good. So it's like, they kind of go together.
The hardest bag for me, and I don't know if y'all still do it this way, but for me to do the final Velcro and everything, or one
inspection process.
Yes. Was snack pack angles.
Oh, the small angles.
Small angles.
Putting plastic in a small angle is still quite challenging.
Because it goes in there a certain way. And the gear jammers, getting the plastic in those was always... If someone didn't I don't know, I'm not going to name any names, but someone didn't sew them right, then
they get hard. Yeah, they're hard to get that
plastic in. But by the end of it, I could do it pretty fast. So... It was a fun job, and I got to touch a lot of bags and see a lot of material go out and watch everyone construct stuff. When you get back to your origin story, so you went from Western states and you wanted to live in Salida, but you were a bike mechanic in Gunnison for a while.
I was a bike mechanic in Pueblo. I worked at my uncle's car shop in Pueblo also, then moved to Gunnison, worked only in the bike shop there, and then just wanted to be here just to get closer to family and just, I love this side. I love Salida. Like ever since I was a little tiny kid, every time we come to Salida, I just eyes wide open, loved everybody riding old towny bikes. Like that was the thing that I always loved. And when I was a little kid, my dad and I were at the junkyard and we pulled an old blue Roll Fast. I think it's a 1963 Cruiser out of the scrapyard. My dad helped me rebuild it because we'd come to Salida and see everybody riding these old vintage bikes and be like, what is that? I want that. So even as a little kid, but I still have that bike, which is kind of a cute story. So it's like, always wanted to live here. So when the opportunity arose, graduated from college, it's like I found myself here and just started piecing it together. And I always think back to even then, it was hard to find a place to live. Like even though the economy was not going great, no jobs, but it still was hard to find a place to live. I remember there were several times I was like, I don't know can I do this? So it's like, it's still really hard, but that's the thing with Salida. You just can't give up.
That's the story of mountain towns since the beginning. You know, like early years at Crested Butte, there probably wasn't proper structures to live in.
Yeah, there's barely are now.
Yeah, and it's always going to be hard to live somewhere cool. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this series, was kind of, shine a light on the people that came here with just work ethic.
Yeah.
And made it happen. And you can still do it. Salida is one of the towns you can still, I think some of your other, like Breckenridge and Crested Butte and Telluride, those are tough.
Those are tough.
But you still see guys that work in the kitchen, and they're living an hour away, and they all commute and carpool to go work in kitchens. So
yeah, and even here, it's like real estate became really expensive. But we always say, like, don't give up. If you want to live here, if you want to, find a place, if you want to buy a house, like everybody I know says, "Oh, I got the last good deal in town." But everybody says that. It's like I felt like that. And then it's like, oh, Lane got her house, and we're like, oh, that was the last good deal in town. And then like we have friends that just recently have bought houses. It's like, you just get in there and you scope things out, and you just know the right people and just put the word out that this is what you want to do. It's like, you can do it. You just have to not give up.
And every 4 or 5 years, the houses get crazy, and people are like, I just can't believe houses are going for that. My cousin looked at, I don't know what year it was, probably mid 2000s, and houses were like $150,000, and he couldn't. He's like, oh, I just can't swing that.
Totally. Like when I first moved here, there's this big 3-story house on G Street, and it was for sale for like $120,000. And somebody was like, you should buy that. And I was like, I don't have 100. What? Nobody's gonna give me that kind of money. Get out of here.
What am I, a millionaire?
Yeah. What is this? Lifestyles of the rich and famous? Stop it. And that's when you could buy a house in Pueblo for $20,000. So I'm like, no way, I'll just go back to Pueblo and buy a house. Like, I'm good with that. And my dad always jokes when he was, in his 20s, he's like, yeah, you could buy a house in Salida. He's like, there's one in Poncha Springs for like $8,000. But I was like, I don't want to live in Poncha Springs. I don't have $8,000. Like, whatever. So that's where it's like, whatever. You just gotta, whatever, put your mind to it, and like, we all just figure it out. Every day we figure it out.
Yeah, it's what kind of sacrifices you want to make. And I'm going to continue with this series and do other small towns that you go through and that are highly sought after, like Marfa, Texas, and we're going to do one on the little town next to us, Hyco. Hyco is probably more affordable, but they're all cool little towns that cool things are happening, and they all have something that's very common, and that is old buildings.
Old buildings.
That gives a town just a certain amount of history.
Oh, yeah.
Culture. The history in these buildings are just...
It's fascinating. This guy came in here, because I don't know a ton of the history of this spot, but we had this guy, he came in and he was talking to Jamie, but it used to be like an old leather working shop, and him and his buddy had bunk beds in the back, like right where our kitchen is now. And it was a grocery store at one point, and then it was an art gallery and a comic book store. It's like just a little bit of history that we know about this spot. It's like, oh, how honored are we to get to spend time here? Amazing. So
this is a question I've had for years, knowing that you worked at the toy store. But when did the toy store open, and how did it exist here? That's a very niche business.
Yeah, the toy store has been around for a very long time. I want to say 2001 maybe is when Donna opened it. And when she originally opened it, it was across the street. And then she ended up getting the spot where it is now. And like, she's always just put it together, but same sort of thing. Her and her husband, entrepreneurs, they had a car shop and other businesses, and they moved here and bought the toy store because it was already an existing business. And then she's grown it into just an amazing business.
And when I lived here, you worked at the toy store part-time, and you worked at Oveja Negra part-time.
Yep.
And now you have bought in, and you're a co-owner.
Yeah, here I am. So that's a really cool story.